Chris Sims lit a fire this week when he took aim at Ashton Jeanty. With one sharp comment, he dismissed the rookie's explosiveness and cast doubt on whether he could ever be a reliable NFL running back. It was the kind of bold take that gets clicks, sparks arguments, and dominates headlines. But underneath the noise, the real story is far more complicated. Football isn't played in sound bites, and it certainly isn't defined by one game in brutal conditions. To understand where Ashton Genty really stands, you have to step back, peel back the layers, and see the bigger picture of what unfolded in Week 1. On paper, the numbers looked ugly. 19 carries, 38 yards, 1 touchdown. Barely 2 yards a carry. It doesn't scream top 6 pick. It doesn't wow fantasy owners. It doesn't quiet the doubters. But the box score can lie, and this one does. Because if you watched closely, you saw the context that completely changes the story. Rain came down hard, turning the field into a slick mess. The Patriots defense came in with one mission: load the box, take away Genty, and force Geno Smith to prove he could beat them through the air. And on too many snaps, Genty barely had the chance to make his first cut before a defender was in his face. Running backs can't conjure lanes out of mud. Even the greats need a crease. Yet even in the struggle, there were flashes. Bursts that reminded you why the Raiders drafted him so high. On a few carries, he broke through for 8 or 9 yards, showing patience, vision, and then that snap of acceleration once a sliver of daylight appeared. Chris Sims talked about a lack of explosion, but the film says otherwise. One play stands out. Genty was supposed to hit the gap. It collapsed immediately. In a heartbeat, he bounced outside, read the field, and accelerated. On a dry surface with one less defender crashing down, that run goes for 40 yards and maybe a touchdown. Instead, he slipped, lost his footing. A good play turned into a missed opportunity, and the stat line stayed flat. That's the razor-thin margin that separates a highlight from a criticism. Defenses are already scheming for Genty. That tells you everything. He's drawing respect. And once the offensive line settles in, those yards will start coming in chunks. Because make no mistake, the line is the real concern here. As a team, the Raiders had 24 rushing attempts for only 56 yards. In a game screaming for old-school ground and pound, it was the passing attack that had to carry them. Backward football, forced by breakdowns up front. Geno Smith was sacked 4 times. Some of that was on clever Patriots blitzes. Some was on stunts. But too many came from individual mistakes. Missed blocks that swung drives. The spotlight fell harshly on Jackson Powers Johnson. Talented, yes. Promising, no doubt. But moving from center to right guard has been a challenge, and it showed. A missed block here, a drive-killing penalty there. These are rookie growing pains. But in the NFL, patience is limited. The Raiders need this unit to gel quickly. Because without protection, Genty never finds space. Without protection, Geno never finds rhythm. And without those two in sync, this offense leans on desperation rather than design. If Genty's debut was about growing pains on offense, Thomas Booker's was about raw promise on defense. 44 snaps, 5 pressures. He was everywhere. His first step leaped off the screen, explosive, disruptive, kind of burst that throws an entire blocking scheme off balance. He's not polished yet. You won't see a clinic of swim moves and hand-fighting technique. What you see is instinct and athleticism, and right now, that's enough to tilt plays. On one snap, the Patriots tried outside zone. Booker knifed into the backside gap, blew it up, and made the play himself. That's not normal. That's special. On another, he ran a stunt with Max Crosby, drew attention, and opened the lane for Crosby to finish the quarterback. That's teamwork, trust, and potential. The Raiders have shifted their defensive philosophy. Instead of rotating for edge rushers like in years past, they're leaning on 3 anchors: Crosby, Malcolm Koonce, and Tyree Wilson. The tackles rotate tighter, with Booker, Adam Butler, and Jonah Lalu forming the core. If Booker keeps flashing like this, he won't just be depth. He'll be part of the foundation. Every great defense needs a surprise breakout. And Booker looks like he wants to be that guy. But the biggest story wasn't one player. It was Pete Carroll. His debut with the Raiders wasn't just a win. It was a slice of history. Carroll became the first coach to win his debut with 4 different NFL franchises. That doesn't happen by accident. It's culture. It's buy-in. It's a gift for walking into a building, demanding belief, and getting it instantly. You felt it in the locker room afterward. The energy. The celebration. The sense that this wasn't the same old Raiders. Think back to how close they were to a different path. Ben Johnson was their top target at one point. He chose Chicago. The Bears' Week 1 collapse said everything about what might have been. Mike Vrabel was in the mix too. He ended up in New England, and the Patriots looked like a team without second-half adjustments, running out of answers. And then there's Josh McDaniels. His track record speaks for itself. The Raiders dodged bullets, and in Pete Carroll, they found the one man who could reset the tone. Carroll didn't come alone. He brought Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. Patrick Graham retained as defensive coordinator. And suddenly, the staff has balance. Continuity on one side, innovation on the other. That combination doesn't happen often. And Geno Smith? He doesn't come without Carroll either. Their relationship paved the way. Now Geno looks revitalized, confident, poised, dangerous. 6 receivers had catches of 20 yards or more. 6, Geno did the ball with precision. Without relying on a single dominant wideout. This offense is depth-driven, matchup-driven. Brock Bowers gave the Patriots nightmares before his knee scare, hauling in 5 catches for 103 yards. He wanted to go back in. The staff held him out. Smart, pair him with Michael Mayer, and you have a tight end duo that tilts the field. Add in Jaka Myers quietly grinding through his contract situation while posting nearly 100 yards. And you realize the arsenal is deep. Behind the scenes, the Raiders aren't standing still either. They've been working out defensive backs, eyeing wide receivers. It might look minor, but it's part of a bigger theme. They're not satisfied. The Patriots were a good first test, but the road ahead is tougher. Next come the Chargers, with Jesse Minter's defense that thrives on simulated pressures, pre-snap confusion, post-snap chaos. Not just Khalil Mack off the edge, but disguised heat from everywhere. And this is where it circles back to Ashton Jeanty. If the Raiders want to protect Geno, if they want to keep the offense balanced, Jeanty has to find traction. Even a modest run game forces defenses to hesitate. Even a modest run game buys Geno that extra second to find Bowers, Myers, or Meyer. That's why one bad stat line shouldn't define him. That's why dismissing him after one sloppy weather game misses the point. The Raiders drafted Ashton Jeanty for what he can become, not what one Sunday in the rain says he is. Chris Sims gave his take. That's his job. But the film tells another story. The flashes are there. The respect from defenses is already there. And once the offensive line stabilizes, the production will be there too. Week 1 wasn't the full picture. It was the beginning of a longer arc, one where Jeanty, the Raiders, and Pete Carroll are trying to build something bigger than one game or one headline. Because here's the truth. This team feels different. The bones are stronger. The belief is real. And for the first time in a long time, the Raiders aren't chasing quick fixes or clinging to false hope. They're building. They're adjusting. They're finding answers. The conversation will rage on. Sims will have his say. Fans will argue, but the story is still being written, and Ashton Jeanty is at the heart of it.